Sharon walked closer, her steps deliberate. I wanted to hear you play, outside of church. Bankole chuckled nervously. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Oh, come on. Sharon sat. But one afternoon, Sharon confronted him outside the lecture hall, her face pale and eyes red from crying. Bankole, we need to talk. He felt a knot form in his stomach. What is it, Sharon? She looked around nervously before pulling him aside. I'm pregnant. Bankole had always been the pride of his parents. Raised by a devout pastor and a respected woman leader in their church, he had grown up under the strictest Christian values. His melodious voice graced the church choir every Sunday, captivating the congregation and making his parents swell with pride. As a university student, Bankole struggled to balance the expectations placed upon him with the temptations of campus life. One person who seemed to understand this struggle was Sharon, his classmate. Sharon was captivating, both in her beauty and her rebellious nature, a stark contrast to everything Bankole had known. One evening after choir practice, Bankole sat alone in the campus chapel, fingers idly playing with the keys of the old piano. He was lost in his own thoughts when Sharon walked in, her presence filling the room with a sense of forbidden allure. Hey, Bankole. Sharon's voice was soft, almost teasing. Bankole looked up, a hesitant smile on his lips. Sharon, what brings you here? Sharon walked closer, her steps deliberate. I wanted to hear you play, outside of church. Bankole chuckled nervously. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Oh, come on. Sharon sat next to him on the piano bench, their knees brushing. What's the harm in a little music? Reluctantly, Bankole began to play a soft melody that seemed to reflect the conflict within him. Sharon watched him, her gaze intense. As the last note faded, she leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. You are really talented, Bankole. There's so much more to you than just the church boy image. Bankole felt his heart raise. Thanks, Sharon, but I can't be anything else. It's who I am. Sharon's hand found his, her touch sending a shiver down his spine. Or maybe you're just afraid to be more. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Bankole felt the walls of his upbringing start to crumble. What followed was a whirlwind of emotions, a night of passion that left Bankole both exhilarated and racked with guilt. Weeks passed and the guilt gnawed at Bankole. He avoided Sharon, hoping to bury his mistake. But one afternoon, Sharon confronted him outside the lecture hall, her face pale and eyes red from crying. Bankole, we need to talk. He felt a knot form in his stomach. What is it, Sharon? She looked around nervously before pulling him aside. I'm pregnant. Bankole's world tilted. What? Are you sure? Tears streamed down Sharon's face. Yes, I'm sure. Who's responsible? Said Bankole. You, of course. What do you mean? Who's responsible? Am I whore? Replied Sharon. Bankole staggered back with the weight of her words crushing him. Sharon sobbed, her voice breaking. I've not been with anyone else, Bankole. Bankole felt a surge of anger, fear and confusion. How could you do this, Sharon? How could I have been so stupid? Sharon reached out, but Bankole stepped back. I'm sorry, Bankole. I didn't mean for this to happen. He shook his head, his mind racing with the consequences, his parents, the church, his future. All of it seemed to collapse around him. I need to think. he muttered before walking away, leaving Sharon sobbing in the hallway. Bankole sought refuge in the chapel. Collapsing onto the floor in front of the altar, he prayed, tears streaming down his face, begging for forgiveness, for guidance. Lord, I have sinned. I have betrayed everything I was raised to believe. Help me, please, Lord, help me. As he knelt there, the weight of his actions pressing down on him, Bankole realized that his path to redemption would be so long and painful, but he also knew that he couldn't face it alone. He would have to confront his parents, his church, and ultimately himself. That night, Bankole made his way home, his heart heavy but determined. He found his parents in the living room, their faces lighting up at the sight of him. Bankole, what is it? His mother asked, concerning etching her features. Bankole took a deep breath, his voice trembling. Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something. I made a terrible mistake and I don't know how to fix it. As he began to recount his story, he saw the shock and disappointment in their eyes, but he also saw something else, love and glimmer of hope. We'll get through this, son, his father said, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Together with God's help, we will find a way. Days turned into weeks as Bankole worked to rebuild his shattered life. He threw himself into his studies and his music, seeking solace in the familiar rhythms of faith and learning. Meanwhile, Sharon's pregnancy progressed, casting a shadow over his every thought. One evening, as Bankole sat with his parents, his mother gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Bankole, have you considered talking to Sharon? Finding out if you are indeed the only man she's been with before the pregnancy. Bankole nodded slowly. I have, Mom. She still insists the baby is mine, but I'm so scared. What if the baby is really mine? I'm not prepared to become a father at this age, at this point, Mom. His father leaned forward, his voice firm yet compassionate. No matter what, we will face it together. God teaches us forgiveness and strength. You must know the truth to move forward. Summoning his courage, Bankole arranged to meet Sharon. They met in a quiet cafe, the air thick with tension. Sharon's eyes were filled with a mix of remorse and fear. Bankole, I am sorry for everything, she began, her voice trembling. I never wanted to hurt you. You must believe me. Bankole sighed, his voice steady but pained. Sharon, I need to know. Is there any way to find out if the baby is mine before it's born? Sharon nodded in disbelief. Really, this? What part of I wasn't with anyone else do you not understand, Banks? Sharon, I need to get this test done so I can commit to my fatherly duty. Well, suit yourself, Sharon replied angrily. I agreed to proceed with the prenatal paternity test. The wait for the result was agonizing, each day stretching endlessly. Bankole's prayers became more fervent, his faith his only anchor. Finally, the day arrived. Bankole sat in the doctor's office, hands clenched tightly, his face pale with anxiety. The doctor entered, holding the result. The test is conclusive, she said, her voice calm. Bankole, you are not the father. Relief and disbelief washed over Bankole's face. Well, Sharon didn't show up because she had been lying to Bankole the whole time. Bankole turned his face up and said, all I can say to you young people watching this is beware of Sharon. Bankole took a deep breath. Returning home, Bankole shared the news with his parents. Their faces showed a mixture of relief and pride. You've shown great strength and faith, son, his father said, embracing him. Remember, redemption is not just about seeking forgiveness, but also about learning and growing from our trials. As the weeks turned into months, Bankole continued his journey of healing. He remained devoted to his studies and his music, his faith unwavering. Sharon gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Her stepfather was responsible for the baby, but that's a story for another day. Bankole's voice once again filled the church, more powerful and heartfelt than ever. His journey had been one of temptation, fall and redemption, and as he stood before the congregation, he knew that he had found his way back to the light, stronger and more resilient than ever before. Did you watch till now? Wow! Thank you! But if I were you, I would do the same anyway. It's a good story. Please, what you do for me is subscribe, like, share. It's a good story. Push it so that other people, the algorithm will like it and show it to a lot of other people. Thank you so much.